So hello, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar, Power Up Your Adventure, CUNY SPS Orientation Kickoff. My name is Angela Francis. I'm the Assistant Dean of General Education and First Year Experience. I'm joined by four wonderful people from the first year team, a name that may already be familiar to you, Emily Jennings. She is your facilitator. From the events team, none of this would be possible without them, Heather and Molly. And an extra special thank you to Tammy, who is here as our ASL interpreter. Thank you for being here. And thank you all for being here. This is our first of 5 webinars during the course of orientation. And I want to make sure you're aware of the other 4. So this Thursday, we'll have Brightspace Essentials. That'll be with me. So if it's been a while, or you've never used Brightspace, or even if you've used Brightspace in a different CUNY campus, this is an opportunity where I will give you a run through of all the different common tasks you'll need to do in your courses. And you'll have the opportunity to ask me any questions you have about how to do other things as well. Then we also have on the 18th, a credit for prior learning webinar. We'll talk a little bit about that today, but I am a huge fan. This is a great way that you can not only progress toward earning your degree faster, but you can also save money. And what's not to love about either of those things? Then we also have time and energy, fitting asynchronous learning into a full life. So you have a time management planning activity in orientation, but a tool by itself isn't always enough. You all have very full, busy lives. Otherwise, many of you probably wouldn't be learning asynchronously. We recognize that. We want to give you as many tools and resources as possible to help you be as successful as possible at reaching your goals here and beyond. And lastly, we have Start Strong resources to help you thrive at CUNY SPS. This is going to be an opportunity to hear from multiple people and to learn more about different opportunities, different resources and offices that are here to help you similarly as you continue to progress as a student. So just some general points of information about how this and all other webinars here will go. If you have a question for me about the topic of the webinar, so in this case, for example, I say something about credit for prior learning, just the basics, and you're not quite sure you understand, or I give information about orientation, and you have a follow-up question, make sure you ask that in the Q&A rather than in the chat. There are 267 of you, and I don't want to miss any of your questions. That's much easier to do in the chat. If, however, you are having technical problems, so you can't hear me, you can't see my screen, please do put that in the chat. The rest of the team here will work to either help you or alert me that I've done something wrong, because either of those are possible. And lastly, we are going to have a poll. And so you'll see a pop-up and you can provide your response to that poll question if you would like. And if you do, that's something that's going to really influence how we move through this orientation session. So we hope that you feel comfortable sharing. So here's our agenda. We're going to start with that polling activity. We're going to talk a little bit about online learning and orientation, including why spend some of your summer on this. We'll talk a bit about a framing mindset GPS principle that can really help you navigate not just success, but also potential roadblocks. I'll give some preliminary information about credit for prior learning so that you can start thinking about if that's something you want to learn more about in the webinar. I'll also highlight one of my favorite things, zero textbook cost courses. And then we'll have a tour of the orientation site and some tips before ending with a QA session. So before we move any further, Molly, if you could please launch that poll. We want to ask you 2 questions. First one is, what, if anything, makes you feel nervous about starting your degree program here? And on the other end, What, if anything, makes you feel excited about starting your degree program? We are aware that you are all degree completers, and what that means is this is not your first time at college. So we don't want to pretend like it is. Your concerns and your excitement may be about very different things. So we'll give you a couple of minutes to go ahead and fill out that poll. About 30 more seconds in case you're thinking. And if you find that you think of something later, I'll show you where the forums are in the orientation site so that you can actually, as you introduce yourself, if you'd like, include this information there too. All right, about 20 more seconds. And if you've got a thought partially written, now's the time to send it. All right. Molly, if you could end the poll for us, please. So we are for sure going to look at these poll results. Thank you. Almost 200 of you responded to them. So we're going to be able to look at these very carefully, Emily and I, afterward, and make sure that this is part of what we gear our resources for in orientation. So look out for some announcements. We'll also make sure you're aware of what some common concerns were, because one of the things we found sometimes happens, particularly when you're coming back to school, is you sometimes think you're the only one worried about something or the only one excited about something. And one of our hopes in orientation is that you'll find out that's not the case. So thank you so much. All right, let's launch into online learning. One key bit of information is that every course you take with us is designed and taught by CUNY faculty. That might not sound special, but we actually work with experts across the university to design these courses. And so that means you are getting the best possible information from experts, not just in your major, but across your gen ed requirements. That also means that your courses are going to be designed to be collaborative and to be interactive. And so what does that mean? One thing that I know I was worried about when I was in an online course was if I was going to feel like I was on my own teaching myself the information. The goal at SPS is that you do not feel that way, not just because you have a group of your classmates, but because you have a very active, present professor there who's engaging with you in the course site, who's answering questions via email, and you'll get a taste of how that can feel during orientation. Because, however, our courses are all asynchronous, which means that not everyone will be in the course site at the same time, you are naturally going to develop your writing skills. So if by chance you said that one of the things you were nervous about were your writing skills, in addition to having resources to help you continue to develop those, you will naturally develop them even when you're not being graded for them, just by completing your assignments in your courses. All of our majors are also grounded in academic practice and in careers. And we work very carefully to make sure that you not only are learning both the values of a liberal arts education, which are sometimes talked about as becoming a well-rounded citizen, but also learning the life and sort of really technical sometimes skills that you need for the career that you're moving or the field you're moving into, if that's part of why you're here. And beyond that, that you can talk about those two things in isolation, but also together. One note, I do see someone has raised their hand. And because there's so many of you, there's almost 300 of you in the room. If you could ask your question using the QA button, I promise I will be spending some time at the end to get to as many of those as possible. And Emily is also in there right now answering some questions if they get posted. I just don't want you to think I'm ignoring you. But next, I also want to highlight our programs are nationally ranked up to number 6 online in the nation as an institution. So that's how you know it's not just me telling you, because I could be biased. External evaluators also have said that you are getting a truly quality education. And so with all of that in mind, why do orientation? Why spend this time in the end of your summer? Well, of course, you can learn about the resources at CUNY SPS and how to access them. If this is your first time learning online or learning asynchronously, there are some differences that can surprise students when they're not aware of them right away. And some best practices. So for example, what's a way to email your professor to make sure you get all of the information you need as soon as possible, and ideally with enough time to actually put it into practice. But more than that, what are the resources at the school? For example, despite the fact that we're online, we actually have the online equivalent of a food pantry. So we want to make sure you know about those things. This is also an opportunity for you to ask questions to faculty and staff when you're not within your course site. So your academic directors, some of your professors, they are also within the orientation site, as are staff from across the school, the help desk, members of student life, members of career services are all in orientation, as are other offices. You can connect with a peer mentor. This mentor may be in your program, maybe from a different program, but either way, these are students who were selected by the chairs or academic directors of their programs as exemplary. And some of them have since graduated and maintained their connection as a mentor because they want to be able to help answer questions from the student's perspective and also from this perspective of someone who has graduated and moved on and can now look back and say, well, you know what, I wish I had done such and such different, or I'm really glad I did this thing. These mentors are different if you are in urban male or urban scholars. That's a different mentor. The mentors I'm talking about here are only available during orientation, so they are an additional resource for the next 2 weeks. As I mentioned, this is also a great opportunity for you to learn how to use Brightspace when you don't need to worry about making a mistake impacting your grade. So we have an opportunity for you to practice attaching things, for example. If you do that now, this is a great opportunity because if you mess up, you can try again. Whereas if you're in your course and you think you attach something and the due date passes, that could impact your grade. And you'll get to test your plan for the semester. So part of why we've organized orientation to be like a course is because this will help you think about what was the impact of orientation on my day-to-day life? Did I get to spend enough time with the people I cared about? Did I have leisure? Did I sleep enough? Did I feel like I was just in a long slog? Well, what are things that I can do to help mitigate that? Those are awesome kind of soft reasons, but we have some numbers for you too. We've been tracking persistence, which is essentially the number or percentage of students who continue to their second semester, and also GPA. And we found that in both cases, completing orientation is a significant predictor of success. So continuing to your second semester, but also having a higher GPA in your first year. So it doesn't just impact your first semester, we're actually seeing an impact in your second term as well. And so you can see it's significant. Now, this is not me saying that if something goes wrong and you are for some reason not able to finish orientation, you are doomed to failure. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that we're seeing that students who complete orientation find it useful. And we're seeing that it does over the last, now I should say 10 and a half years, every term we're seeing this consistent. And so if you are able to complete it, it's a great first step towards success. And lastly, I have a favorite comment from someone who completed orientation. This was, I believe, last academic year. And I love this because I recognize you may be feeling this way too. At first, I was kind of annoyed that there were all of these assignments, but I absolutely loved it. I even decided to add a course that I had wanted to take, but was unsure if I should because I was afraid I might be doing too much too soon. After this orientation, I feel confident that I can manage the course load and my time well, thanks to the time management activity. So, if you are feeling annoyed right now, I completely understand. I do. But my hope is that you, like this previous orientation completer, will find it useful, not just in the immediate, but in the long term, because you will have reassessed what you can handle in the moment, and you'll be able to take that with you throughout the rest of your degree and beyond. I look forward to reading these comments at the end of orientation. And so if you felt similarly, please do feel free to tell us because you will give me a little bit of joy. And I think I can speak for Emily when I say I think Emily will also get a little bit of joy about that too. But we do really hope this is your experience. So next, I want to highlight growth mindset. First year throughout, because we are not only here for you during orientation, we are here for you throughout your first year. We are organized through the Mindset GPS principle. That's three things. The first one is growth mindset. You may have heard about this. What it means is that how you think about learning can help you achieve your goals and navigate challenges and inequity. Importantly, this is not saying that if you had a hard time with something or feel like you were not successful, that it's because you had the wrong mindset. That's not what this is suggesting. Instead, it's saying that sometimes when you're struggling, it's not because you are incapable of something. It's because you didn't have the right tools, the right support, the right knowledge. Maybe it wasn't the right time. It's not, the outcome is not a metric of your capability necessarily. Sometimes it's a metric of the support. And that's part of what we're here for. But it's also important that you realize that because then you'll reach out and also hopefully show yourself a bit more grace if you run into a little bit of a challenge. Next is purpose. If you were able to join us from the beginning, one of our recent graduates who had a quotation at the start really highlighted this, the importance of remembering your reason, not the reason that you think someone else should have for you, the reason that a family or a friend has for you, even a supervisor. But what is your reason for coming back to this school to earn this degree right now? Whatever that reason is valid. What's important is that it's yours and that you hold on to it. I've found, even now that I'm outside of school, that it actually helps me periodically to revisit my purpose. Why am I doing things? Because when I'm struggling, that's what keeps me going. And last, we've already touched on this a little bit, but it's social belonging. It's this idea that you aren't the only one. And one of the other recent graduates actually highlighted this as well when talking about the fact that she felt that at 49, going back for a degree, felt late. She discovered it wasn't, right? If you feel for example, that your English language skills aren't as high as you'd like them to be, or you had a really difficult time the last time you were at school, you aren't the only one. We are here specifically for students like you. And so our hope is while you're in orientation, that you will start to make some of those connections with students, not just within your major, but outside of your major, and really find that sense of belonging across courses because that support system can help keep going and also help it make it so that you don't feel like you're quite so alone when you're sitting in front of a computer in a room by yourself. Next, I want to tell you about credit for prior learning. And again, this is going to be just a brief overview. We have a whole hour-long webinar if this is something that sounds interesting to you scheduled next week, but I want to let you know just the basics. Essentially, this is a way for you to earn credit for the college level knowledge you already possess. You are all adults. Many of you have had careers, whether or not they're the same career you want to be in or not. But many of you may have also learned things through other opportunities. And so you can earn credit through examination. If, for example, you haven't fulfilled the gen ed requirement of world cultures and global issues, you can take, if you know a language other than English, an exam and satisfy that requirement. That's particularly lovely for those of you for whom English is a second language. But there are exams across all sorts of gen ed topics. And so if you already know the knowledge to the level where you feel confident that you can take a test, we will indeed offer credit for examinations. We also have pre-evaluated non-collegiate learning opportunities. These are often certificates that you may have earned or received as part of work that you were doing. If we've already evaluated those, you can sometimes get 9 credits for something that you've already attained. And we have a course, PLA 300, which is Credit by Portfolio Evaluation. This is one of our gen ed courses. It is specifically a college option course. By taking this course, you earn credit for your college option requirements, and you complete a portfolio to demonstrate that you already know the outcomes for a different course, which means you can actually earn credit for 2 courses for the price of 1, quite literally. So that is the really broad strokes overview of credit for prior learning here. The experts in that office will be here to talk to you about this on Monday. So you can register for that webinar in the orientation site. You can also send them an email at pla@sps.cuny.edu. We do ask, though, that if you send an email, that you are a little bit patient. They are a little bit swamped right now, but they will get back to you as soon as possible. And you can also post to the Q&A forum because members of that team are in orientation looking for questions about credit for prior learning as well. So those are 3 ways to get in touch with them: email, the webinar, and the discussion board in orientation. Next up is zero textbook cost courses. This is something that is near and dear to my heart because even when I was an undergraduate, an undisclosed number of years ago, I remember going to the bookstore and looking at those books that cost somewhere between $100 and $200 and wondering how to pay for them. And I know that in the time since then, books have only gotten more expensive. And so at CUNY SPS, we do our best when possible to have a zero textbook cost course. This means you do not need to purchase a textbook for that course at all. There are no paid textbook materials. We do this by using what's called open educational resources or free materials, or by using a certain number of materials from the library. But again, there are no textbook costs for you. Now, I do want to note that if you are looking at a zero textbook cost science course, there may be lab costs course associated with the course. So this is about textbooks, but you can always reach out to either the academic director or look for more information at the description of the course to make sure that you are getting the full picture. In the spring, 97% of Gen Ed sections that ran were zero textbook cost. That means it is very feasible for you to complete your Gen Ed requirements without paying a single cent for a textbook. But more than that, we have a couple of degrees where you can actually complete your entire degree without buying a single textbook. So one of those, for example, is liberal studies. You can finish that degree with no textbooks whatsoever. So this is something to think about as you're thinking about your courses. And you can learn more on our website. We've got links to this in the orientation site, so please don't worry about trying to remember the URL on screen. And you can see that right now, this is not the final number, but we are even outpacing at the moment the spring number. We are at 99% of general education sections. So I'm super, super proud to be able to tell you about this. To learn more, go into CUNY first and do a search using the course attribute zero textbook cost. There's also a low textbook cost attribute. That's $25 and under for total textbook costs in the course. So if you aren't able to do something with a zero textbook cost course, look for the low textbook costs. There will be some courses in some majors where unfortunately you do need to buy that textbook. And that's just because the nature of the course, the nature of the knowledge really does require something that would be in that book. But whenever possible, that is an option. So next step is the orientation site tour. I do want to take just a quick moment because I am seeing potentially some QAs. Just to make sure that there are none that require me to go back to a previous slide. All right, for now, one thing I'll note, I see one person who mentioned that they did indeed need to purchase some books for your courses. And yes, unfortunately, again, some courses will require textbooks, particularly in the major. But as you are looking at this and you're thinking about when you take which courses, and this is something you may want to talk to your advisor about, depending on which courses you need to complete, you may, for example, be able to take more gen eds to help split that cost. Or speak to your advisor about if there are additional or other courses you may be able to take that will help lower those courses for you. All right. So let me move to the course tour because I think the rest of these I'll answer toward the end. So I am actually going to go into my browser. And this will actually give me an opportunity to answer one of the questions that was in the QA. There was a question about MFA. Now, hopefully, this is not going to make me log in. If it does, you'll get to see me navigate the MFA process. MFA stands for multi-factor authentication. During the term, the university will be moving to requiring that to log in to CUNY applications or websites. So essentially, when you're at cuny.edu and you hover over login, these will eventually require that you use multi-factor authentication. So what that means is it will ask you to log in with your single sign-on. That's it's your first name, dot last name, the last 2 digits of your EMPL, followed by at login.cuny.edu. That is always your single sign-on. And that password, and after you do that, it will ask you to then provide a code that for me, it sends to my phone. So you will need to do that. We will have information about how to set yourself up for that in orientation, and the help desk can also assist. My suggestion, I will actually make this a request. My request of each of you is that you set yourself up for multi-factor authentication before you need to. It is much easier to start using this if you have it set up in advance. So what you'll do to log into Brightspace is you will hover over login and you will click Brightspace/Blackboard. That will bring you to this page. This may change over the course of the semester as the final CUNY campuses are moving on over to Brightspace. But for now, this will bring you to this landing page and you will select login to Brightspace. At that point, you will be able to access a page that looks like this. A few notes. If you are originally or previously taking courses at another CUNY campus and you see that other CUNY campus's branding, that is okay. You will still see your courses and that will switch over as the term starts. Next thing that I know comes up a lot, because you can see, I see a whole bunch of fall courses here. You will not. You will be able to see your courses on the first day of the term by 9 a.m. So please do not worry if you see things from your previous CUNY campus, or if you do not see anything other than orientation here, that is completely normal. What you want to do though, in order to get into orientation or your course sites, once you're on this page, is just click the name of the site. So for you, that is going to be most likely this one right here. If you are joining us and you haven't registered for courses yet, you're not yet enrolled in orientation. And so once you enroll in your courses or register in your courses for the term, depending on the date, you will end up in one of these 2 sites. It will either be this one here, which is where Emily is, so that's where you want to be, or it'll be this one, which is where I am. And I will try to be somewhere approaching to Emily's wonderful facilitation skills. But either way, you'll see an orientation, you'll click the name, and that will bring you to the course homepage. So this is what it looks like when you are in your course. I am not going to show you how to do everything here. That is for our Brightspace Basics webinar. We will run out of time and I want to make sure I answer your questions. But I do want to show you some basics right now. This page looks very similar for every course you're in. So as you get used to orientation, you are also getting used to your courses. Things are going to look a little bit different for me than they will for you because I'm impersonating a student. I'm not actually a student. However, you will see announcements here on the left. You'll see information about your professor, or in this case, your facilitator here. And when you scroll down, you will see whichever units are available to you at the time. Now, this is important, at the time. Your courses are likely to reveal modules weekly or in groups. So I would not expect you to necessarily see every module or the entire course at once. And so to get you used to that, we're doing the same thing here. There is a module you can't see yet, and we will indeed reveal it to you just in a little bit, in a couple of days. It contains some more resources and a survey. but we want you to get used to just the fact that things will appear. You can also see information about what to do and a calendar. And sometimes students find these a bit confusing, particularly for discussion boards, because this, for example, here you'll see lists just one due date. Some assignments, like discussion boards, will have a midweek due date, which is make your post, and an end of week due date, which is respond to your classmates. So it's very important that you don't just glance at this and say this is the full picture. You're really going to want to look at the assignments and the assignment directions and instructions just to make sure that you set yourself up for success. And so this is a good example of seeing how that looks. I'm going to pretend that I'm clicking into this module, but when you click into it, you will see something that looks like this. So information at the very top about what to expect, and then multiple pieces of information here. Often what you'll see is resources to consume. So in this case, we actually have a syllabus like you would in your courses. And so you can view the syllabus here, and you can also download the syllabus. But you can also move through the modules in a couple of ways. So first way is by using these arrows over here on the upper right, just to go forward and backward if you want to go in order. So for example, here's a tour. If you realize you want to jump around, you can click this little arrow here on the upper left. That will expand things so that you can see everything in the module. And if more than one module is available, you can see what's available in the next module and continue that way. The last way, and one that I am a big fan of, is actually at right above the name of the page you're on. You'll see table of contents. In this case, module number 0 start here, and then the name of the page. Everything before the name of the page is a link. So I can click module 0 start here, and it will take me back to module 0. And you can see it's updating my progress as I go along. It's done a check mark for what I've actually looked at, and that's a great way for you to have just sort of an at-a-glance understanding of where you are. You can navigate the different modules over here. This is an example. So this is the module you can't see yet, begins on August 19th. So when you're here, don't be surprised when you don't see module 3. Right now, you'll see module 1 and module 2. But you can see I can click module 2 and move to a certain unit. Or if I want to, I can go to course home and end up right back at this web page. So you have multiple ways to navigate the site. I want to highlight 2 other areas. First is the discussion board, just because this is a very important site or part of the site. So we have multiple discussion board forums here for QAs. We have just a general QA forum. If you wanted to ask a question to Emily or me about being a student, or the peer mentors about being a student, navigating a resource, how do I get my ID? Or I don't know how to do this thing in bright space. I'm a little bit confused. Ask that here. If you're having a technical problem, so you know there's a video, you can't see it, or you're concerned about that MFA situation, you want to ask the help desk here. If you have a question that really is specific for a peer mentor, you'll ask it right here. And then as you scroll down, you can see the forums. So here's actually one of our peer mentors already in the site. I'm going to go into introductions, and I'll actually go to her post so that I'm not revealing anyone else, but I just want to show you how this looks. I am now within a topic, and so I can see what's been posted by all sorts of people within this topic. And what I can do is I can actually search here. So I'm going to search for Melissa. Anytime the word Melissa pops up, such as because she made a post, This enables me to see where she is. So she is making replies here. To see more, you just click more. You can see that there are replies. So you can click unread. This will show you both the original post and the reply. And last thing I'll show you here is you can subscribe, which means you'll get an email if someone responds to you. So if you want to see more information about how to navigate sites like that, that is what the Brightspace Basics site is for. But really for now, and once again, you'll see I'm just going to go back to the discussions list. That'll bring me back to the main page. Please remember, because it just makes it easier. Technical questions, put them here, please, because the help desk is really looking for them. The other area that I wanted to make sure I showed you is grades. So this is accessible right here. And this is where you can see all sorts of assignments. If you see things like multiple career narratives, don't worry about it. You are only responsible for the one that is your major. And so if you have questions, ask us. If you see, because you'll notice as you move through orientation, there's a space just for you in your major. If you notice you're in the wrong major, post it to the QA, or even better, send us an email and we'll make sure you're in the right major. That is an orientation site issue. It does not reflect necessarily that you are actually enrolled in the wrong major. So to get started, you're going to want to make sure you log in, course home, go to module 0 to get started, and look at the materials here. And you'll be able to see a brief course tour here. And after we have the recording of this webinar, we'll also put it here. So you'll be able to watch that too. All right, so some last tips. I really do suggest you print out the syllabus if at all possible, because some studies have shown that we actually do retain information better when we're looking at it on paper rather than on a screen. And so that, plus being able to annotate it more easily, it's just a really good idea if it's possible for you. Refer to the task list. So you'll see a task list in your courses, in some courses, that are telling you exactly what you need to do that week. That's a good use, just to make sure that you can check it off and you're not missing anything. Subscribe rather to threads that you make on the discussion board, because that will give you a notification when a student or your professor responds. And when your professor responds to you on the discussion board, they're often quietly giving you a hint about something to do that will help you improve your grade. And in orientation, you can move ahead. So we've got 2 modules open to you right now. You're not stuck in module 1. Go ahead through module 2. And as soon as module 3 is open, go ahead to that too if you'd like. What we care about is that you finish orientation by the end of orientation, which is the day before the term starts. Ask your questions, please. Emily and I both actually really enjoy getting to answer your questions. That's why we're in this line of work. So please do not worry that you are asking a stupid question or you should know better. If you should know better, we wouldn't need orientation. So please do ask your questions. We are happy to answer them genuinely. If you do not see orientation, are you registered for your courses? If so, that puts you on a list for enrollment, and as soon as you get access to the site that day, we send you an email letting you know. So, did you register? If yes, did you get an email from us? If no, you can reach out to us, tell us when you registered, and we'll look into the situation for you. It takes about 2 days. So if it's been less than 2 days since you registered, 2 business days, give it a little bit more time. But if it's been more than that, send us an email. And remember, I logged into Brightspace through that CUNY.edu webpage. That's my preferred way. Give that a try. If that doesn't work for you and you don't see orientation, definitely email us. All right, and so now, as promised, I'm going to spend some time with that QA. So if you did post a question in the chat, Please do put it within the QA because I'll also go back after this webinar rather is over and answer things that haven't been answered now. So, um, do do do. If you are having a hard time reaching out or receiving word from your advisor, you can send us an email at orientation. I'm going to go to the next page, orientation@sps.cuny.edu. They are navigating a pretty significant backlog, but we can see if we can help facilitate getting an answer. If you are asking a question that's not specific to just you, it's just a how do I navigate school question, we may be able to help you with that. Um, mm, mm, mm. If you set your MFA up after hearing from the help desk over the summer, you are all set. So you should only need to do that at CUNY SPS one time. Next. So there's a question about, I'll read the question, but not the person who asked it. It's, I am doing health information and management. Can I get credit for the classes I took for my associate's nursing degree from an out-of-state school? The answer is it depends. So it depends on if your school was accredited, depends on which courses you took, and how they would fit into the major. One thing you can do is if you go back to that cuny.edu homepage, you look at login, there's DegreeWorks. This shows you how the courses that you've taken already are applying to your current degree path. So this is a good place to go if you have questions about how that's going. And with Gen Ed in particular, courses are continuing to be assessed. So you may find that this information continues to change as we head into the term. If you have a question about a particular course in Gen Ed, you can actually ask me right now. So you can send us an email at the orientation email address, which I will put back on the screen, and Emily will flag that for me because I may be able to give you a quick response. Next question. Do you have access to any CUNY facilities aside from the Baruch Library? So if you get a CUNY SPS student ID with your picture on it, you have access to basically all of the CUNY facilities. While the Baruch Library is our home library, any CUNY student can access any CUNY library, for example. So while some CUNY campuses do put some restrictions on things like gyms, you have access to every CUNY campus if you have a CUNY campus ID, and it's a great reason to get that. Um, mm, mm, mm. So another question is, where can you see if you need to get a textbook, etc.? So there are a couple of options. One is to go into CUNY first and look at the schedule of courses. The other is to go into our bookstore, which is called Academos. I'm going to show you how you can get there. So this is our CUNY SPS homepage, and you can click current students at the top and find information about a lot of things. This will include things like the bookstore, and as you can see, the help desk. But there's also information about something several of you are asking about right now, student IDs. So here's information on student IDs. This information is also in orientation, but just in case you forget or do indeed need a replacement, here's that information. So hopefully that helps with that information. In terms of how to access an ID. There's also a question about information. What gets sent to your personal email and what gets sent to your school email? Things are almost always going to be sent to your CUNY SPS email address. So right now, if you are getting messages from us at your personal email address, it is purely because you are a new student and your CUNY email address is still being created. During the term, everything goes to your CUNY SPS email address. So you are very much going to want to make sure you check it. And we actually suggest checking it on a daily basis, if at all possible, to make sure you don't miss announcements because those get emailed out to you, as well as important information from various offices, deadlines, things like that. We've had students actually miss the deadline to do things like register for graduation. I don't want that for you. So please do get in the habit of checking that SPS email address. There's another question about what happens if a professor's teaching style is not interactive. So let's say you're in a course and your professor disappears. You are going to want to tell the academic director about that. Your academic director, I up through the end of the summer have been the academic director equivalent for Gen Ed. I don't know if a professor is not engaging students until a student tells me. So if a professor rather, is not responding, and we typically say expect 24 hours for an email response. If 36 to 48 pass, send a follow-up. If you're not getting a response or they're not responding to grades or things like that, let your academic director know. They want to know. Um, You should be getting emails about how to meet with your advisor or register for classes. So if you have not, send us an email because we can help connect you. Very important. If you email us about something like this and just general best practice, please include your EMPL ID. That's that 8-digit number. That lets us look up your record to identify, for example, who your advisor is. Is it okay for students to travel internationally during the semester? Yes, as long as you can still access the internet, you are good to travel. One thing to remember, however, is that your deadlines are New York City time. So if you go to France, you're going to want to make a note about what those deadlines are in your new time zone, for example. Um, so yes, you will be using the MFA. Another question, are there honors courses? No, we do not have honors courses. And we have clubs and we have some fellowships and scholarships. Those aren't quite the same as honors academies. But I encourage you, to the person who asked this question or anyone else who's interested, head on over to that QA forum in orientation and ask what opportunities would be available to a student who is interested in things like honors academies, because student life is here in orientation and can provide you with more information. Next question. There's a question about the internship course. I'm assuming you mean internship 450, INT 450. That is an actual course. It is in addition to the fellowship or the internship rather. So you are actually enrolled in the course, completing an internship while you do so. If you've already done the internship, that's not what the internship course is for. Depending on your degree, so for example, you may be in a degree where you have the option to take the internship course for PLA 300. That would put you in a situation where you want to take PLA 300. I see Emily is answering this question, but I'm also just going to answer it verbally. If you do any form of PLA, credit for prior learning, you take an exam, all of those things go to the credit for prior learning team. Lectures up. Emily, you're answering all the great questions. Emily, why don't you answer this one out loud, if you don't mind? So the question you're about to,
Sure.
yeah, please do.
I'm quick on the draw here with the questions. So yes, so
Love it.
all of our orientation webinars are recorded. Our incredible events team then works hard to present present a recording for us, and they usually have the link for us typically within 48 hours of the live event, and then we distribute that to you once we have it. So we will be recording all of these webinars, so you don't have to worry about things like taking notes or being worried about missing information. We've got you covered there. You'll have all the info to go back to at any time as a resource.
Thank you. And you'll
Thank you.
see that this actually mimics your courses. So lectures, often recorded. However, your professors will have weekly office hours, just like in a face-to-face course. And those are synchronous. So I am going to, oops, it wasn't trying to go backward there. Go here. While I have this up, I am going to do a rapid fire round for 2 minutes of some questions. So, if you have a disability and you would like to have accommodations, which I strongly suggest, yes, you are required in order to have formal accommodations for your courses to work with the Office of Disability Services. So, please do. And remember that temporary disabilities also count. So if you are in a situation where you are having a difficult pregnancy, that can count. Um, if you want to talk about the internship course, that's also PLA. If you want to talk about specifically how that fits within your major, that is going to be your program. So if you are in health service administration, you're going to want to email them. Next. If courses are full, we are still trying to open courses if possible. It is possible that you can ask for an overtally, which is when a professor agrees to allow an extra student in, but I would say do not view that as a sure thing. Next question. If there is no webinar, you do not have to meet with us at this time. So you can see the webinar dates on the screen. Except for those, orientation is fully asynchronous. Next question, can you do double majors? Yes, but the way that you do that really does depend on the number of credits you have in and how they fit. Please talk to your advisor about that. Um, mm, mm, mm. Next. Emails to registering. I'm not quite sure if you mean registering for your courses or registering to speak to an advisor. So those of you who have questions about when do you get assigned an advisor, things like that, you can see if you've been assigned an advisor in CUNY First in your Student Services Center. If you don't see a person there, that means you haven't yet been assigned one. You can reach out to us. I see a question about PLA 300. Please ask us that question through email. And let's see, what else? Um, Everything in orientation is indeed due on the 25th. And yes, a student can change your major. You'll want to talk to your advisor about that and really think carefully about how to do that. I know I'm out of time, so I will pause there. I think we got through most of the questions. Um, if you have more, please do email us at the email address on the screen, orientation@sps.cuny.edu, because I know that there are still questions coming in and that I'm not seeing them. But I do hope that regardless, this webinar was useful and a good starting point for you. If you have further questions, please do email us or post in that QA forum. We are happy to answer your questions either way. And neither one is faster than the other. So I would say post to the QA if this is not a private question and you think another person would benefit. If it's private or personal and it really just helps you, and you're sure about that, go ahead and email us. But either way, we get alerted in the email address when someone posts to the QA forum. So we'll get to you at about the same speed either way. Thank you so much for joining us. I really do hope to see you at some of these future webinars. And I hope you have a wonderful end of your day and a wonderful start to orientation. Please take good care of yourself, and I'll see you in the site soon. Bye, everybody.